China is already at war with the United States. Now, we just need to start acting like it. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Real quick, YouTube has been trying to suppress China Uncensored hard since last November. So please join me in Operation Honeypot by leaving a honeypot emoji in the comments. It's for the algorithm and also to show YouTube we know they've got their sticky little fingers in China's honeypot. And now, on with the show. China is already at war with the United States, and it's time for us to wake up and realize it. It's scary to think about, especially considering that, according to the FBI, the threat posed by China is equivalent to the threat posed from all other foreign countries combined. Which has to hurt Putin's feelings. That doesn't include Russia, right? We're still a big scary threat. But it's true. And the Chinese Communist Party has been allowed to strike first for far too long. They're like Cobra, with the mentality of Cobra Kai, but without the catchy tunes of Cobra Starship. Last month, just ahead of the UN General Assembly in New York City, the U.S. Secret Service dismantled an imminent telecommunications threat in the New York tri-state area. They could have shut the whole thing down, which would have been devastating since, aside from electronics, the only way New Yorkers communicate with each other is by screaming, "Hey, I'm walking here!" While investigating threats sent to the private phones of several high-level U.S. officials last spring, including one with direct access to President Donald Trump, the Secret Service discovered more than 300 SIM servers and 100,000 SIM cards across multiple locations, all clustered within 35 miles of the UN. There was enough equipment to send 30 million anonymous texts per minute, which could have easily crippled New York City's cellular network. Although really, if they wanted to send that many texts, they could have just hired like 100 Gen Zers. But according to officials, the equipment also could have launched denial of service attacks and blocked the communications of emergency services like EMS and police dispatch, as well as vital business communications. But it gets worse. It turns out the plot was much bigger than people first thought, as the feds discovered an additional 200,000 SIM cards in New Jersey. You know China means business if they're actually willing to travel to New Jersey. On top of that, law enforcement sources said that similar operations had been uncovered in California and the Midwest in recent weeks. The investigation is still ongoing, but according to the Secret Service, one thing is clear. The equipment in New York had been used by nation-state threat actors linked to China. Dun dun dun. But this shouldn't be surprising. After all, China's been setting the groundwork to sabotage and destroy the US for years. It was recently discovered that Chinese-made solar panels used on US farms had a secret back door. Here's a former NSA intelligence analyst on that.
And the concern is that the devices could be used to attack the United States power grid. Specifically, they could have attacked the panels themselves, or could have been a jumping off point to move into the wider grid they're connected to.
Wow, what a bad idea to use things made in China for critical infrastructure. I wonder what else China has built. How about the cranes used in U.S. ports? This company, ZPMC, is a Chinese military state-owned contractor. They've built 80% of the cranes used in U.S. ports.
You wouldn't even have to go to war to destroy our economy. You could shut down these ports right here.
Okay, so we got China being able to shut down our telecoms, our power grid, and our entire economy. How about the internet, too? China has been accused of cutting undersea internet cables around Taiwan and in Europe. In fact, they're bragging about the new deep-sea cable cutter they built. So if actual fighting breaks out, China could effectively cut off your internet. So you wouldn't know that. Yeah, could happen just like that. And believe me, as we saw in their recent military parade, they have an advanced military ready for actual fighting. But again, we're already at war with China, and China doesn't need troops to kill Americans. 77,000 Americans die every year from Chinese fentanyl. And it gets worse. You know that whole war in Ukraine that's been going on for the past several years? The one that's draining a lot of U.S. resources? It's essentially a Chinese proxy war against the West. They're propping up Russia financially and militarily. Without CCP support, I doubt Russia's invasion would still be going on. The reason China has been able to get away with all of this is because we as a nation have not come to terms with the fact that the Chinese Communist Party is at war with us. If we had, we wouldn't let them build the cranes in our ports or key components of our power grid. The reason most Americans don't realize we're already at war is because some of our leaders and the mainstream media aren't treating the China threat as seriously as they should. MIT recently published this article that says China is not a threat. How did they come to that conclusion? They took the word of Chinese state-run media and top communist officials when they said China isn't a threat. Unless it's possible the country at war with you might lie? Oh, look at that. I have more complex reasoning than the people at MIT. And it's not just limited to the US. Take the UK, for example. 2 British men, including a former parliamentarian researcher, were charged with spying for China, and the UK government killed the case. It was sabotaged from the very top because they would not allow the key witness to describe China as an enemy. So let me, dear viewers, tell you, the CCP is our enemy. They want to kill us. They want to break our country. And it's not just limited to what I've talked about in this episode. They want to change how we even think about who is an American. That's the topic on the latest episode of my other show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming. Click here to check that out. And as always, be sure to like and subscribe. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.